John, I don't know if you filled this out for us before, but we're asking you to do it this time.
Okay.
Our auditors have asked us to complete a progress analysis. And so if you wouldn't mind filling that out, and you can either give it back to us, we'll send it out and send it back.
Okay. Oh, cool. I might have done this.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking you may have.
Don't be bad today.
No, it's going to be much better. Spring and I had some great issues from my kids, but when we go skiing, when we talk about, you know, you go from the low middle top, you got to challenge them on.
Is it normally blinking when it's?
Yeah, it should blink.
Okay.
This tells me it's streaming. Oh, Lucas.
So blinking is live.
Blinking is live, yeah. Yeah, good. You can see everybody up there. Go public. Which means I should be able to go downstairs.
See the stream?
And we should be able to see the stream.
Hey, just so you know, we're testing the stream so it's live, so if someone does come in.
I should stop swearing.
Hey, forget about it.
Hey, let me say. I was going to say that.
Hey,
Hey, yeah. Over here.
is there copier on here?
There, yeah.
How have you been?
Pardon?
How have you been?
How am I doing? With the energy. How about you?
Well, it's been interesting. All of a sudden, let me tell you, there's been an explosion of divorces.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a sad state, isn't it? But it's understandable.
That from literally 80%. It's a bad problem. Good problem having, but.
Yeah.
So we're,
Well, I know you had said for a while that you weren't even going in, but then the court
we're
started.
at 37 chairs.
It's on the court almost every day, even on Zoom.
We can probably put,
Last time. So Michelle's not going to be here tonight?
Right.
As big as a positive?
Well, I don't know why.
but we told, I mean,
Okay, that's not what the main person that we have. Navigating all that too is really difficult. Oh, I'm sure. This is really.
Well, we say that.
Thank you for that. This is really.
I mean, just as he's back there.
Yeah, right. No one could have ever anticipated.
Not so
that.
much.
No. Right. Yeah, yeah, I know. I know. I know, I said, I was talking to Brian on the way in, I was like, you know, you try to gauge your community. I'm talking to the lawyer yesterday, and he's telling me that they had a client where they didn't come to file. Yeah, well, right, now that.
All right.
So what's it look like downstairs, Brian?
We got Carl anywhere?
Haven't seen him yet. Jerry's here, doing some photos.
No, I mean, me, Carl, Peter.
Carl's meeting.
Oh,
That's why we were not.
lining up.
Right.
Probably moving over though, huh?
How you doing, John?
And we've gotten that part of it.
Doing all right, how are you, Mike?
Hey, Steve.
Found Carl.
Oh, good, because I was gonna say, I don't know where they put their stuff anymore. We used to have a, you know, kind of a designated spot. Now you got yourself comfortable.
Sorry, John.
I'm good.
Yeah, he wasn't here at the last meeting. Do you have a box or something in the storeroom there? In the back room that they put everything?
Yeah, everything's back there in the box. And then, everything's good.
Here, see,
Yeah, so I guess we're already straight.
Oh, it's live?
It's not right around the corner.
No, I know. That's the truth.
Q's gonna get something to Peter.
Hello, Brian, how are you?
Very good, how are you?
I know, we got a whole room.
Hello, John.
Yes, Joe.
I'm going to be connecting
Yeah,
tomorrow.
well, that's the time you
from
go
afar.
out.
Okay. Have you
How
heard
do they
anything?
like the box?
No, I was hoping you'd have more to tell us.
So I have slightly, I don't have any more than Gene's office. I don't have any more than Gene's office, but it's 10 to 12 weeks
Oh,
before
we
we have.
typically do, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's at mid-October probably.
George is down.
Well, that wasn't my intention.
Right?
Uh-huh. And
Brian,
talking
we're
about
working on
clients.
the setup.
Yeah, we're going to have this. We do pretty contact. I expect that we
We
have
have a
to call and talk
microphone.
to you.
We have
We're
the
gonna be-
podium before. Do you know where that went?
Well,
Oh, you're using it as one of those remote ones?
Yeah.
Can we keep
I have
our
two, so I don't know,
original-
and I'm not sure if it's the same or different rooms. Pretty sure I'm in different ones.
Or
So if I'm not in yours, I'm waiting in the queue for the other one.
Yeah, I've got one.
or maybe there's a mic stand in this building. Mike said he had wanted one.
Okay.
Adding, I had more retention. Past 2 weeks. And I've had
Yeah, things picked up for us too,
before Karen left.
significantly.
Yeah.
Before Karen left, did she not work anymore? Well, I knew she was planning on it, but every time she said she was planning on it, she seemed to be gone, she seemed to be back.
I bought her out.
You know, we could get a mic stand from.
Cheaper was.
Our-
Oh, there. I sprayed it on my way out.
Yeah, you can get that distance spray.
Yeah, that's good. Still pretty close because it's high up there, you know?
Sure.
So, just so you know, we've already.
All right, well,
Just so you know, we've already.
do you think we could,
The camera's live.
I'm a little worried about it,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's all, please.
maybe,
Hello, Jerry.
How are you doing? How's Yellowstone?
It was another troop of a lifetime.
That's awesome.
I've had, and the kids loved it. You know you've hit the mark when your 14-year-old says, I tell my friends what's going on, but I tell my friends about it, but they won't believe, they can't understand it because they haven't seen it.
I remember the kids on the first bump, and I was like, ah, and then by the second, it was like, oh, another one. There's so many of them.
Yeah, that was about it. Oh, Buffalo, we're spoiled.
Yeah.
But we kept seeing new stuff, so we saw a couple of those on the way out.
See a moose?
Did not see a moose, but we did see a grizzly bear.
Wait, okay.
We saw a couple of elk, we saw a bald eagle.
There's a place in Cody, did you say you stayed in Cody?
Yeah, but we were only there, literally there. We got there at 9 o'clock at night and left at 9 o'clock next morning. You know, I took a shower and left.
Because there's a restaurant there, I asked the guy, I said, hey, where's a good place for us to stay? So he sends me there, and I go there, and all they have on the menu is a large or a small steak, that was it. and 26 types of dessert. It's hilarious. And a wedge,
As I was like.
big one or small?
That's
Big?
Yeah, well, all we could get there when we got there
Well,
was,
actually, it was
Wendy's
bathroom. I'm like,
and
I hear
alcohol.
my phone ringing. I was
So
just
that's all it was
gonna
open.
get ready to leave to run an errand, so that would go good. Okay, what do you think, Steve?
It was a really great trip, and
Try
I'm
to
glad we went.
reposition some of those.
We had a good time, and 2 days into it, they canceled football camp, so Charlie wasn't mad at me anymore.
There you go.
You're gonna have one of the
That was the way it went.
That's what he's trying to figure out.
Do we have a login code?
They want you to read comments.
Yeah. We tried to log in. Yeah, I guess it's web-based, isn't it?
I know. Well, the thing is, too,
Did you say you saw this?
I don't know how it is really sent to the, school banking.
I haven't seen it. I looked for it.
And they're also, so we read
Oh.
these are all stuff.
Oh,
The ones that you disappear.
yeah, because we have definitely a people in the community. So maybe we wanted to give you a story.
Well, I know he's got
Oh, okay.
he said we would say that. But my question is,
You better wear something other than you do.
Stand connected.
You're. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Not that for a good joke.
Hey, George.
Yeah.
I'm looking for another microphone.
Oh, you're very good.
I don't have one.
329, I don't know.
Mike wanted one from the podium, so Steve took one from the pool.
The best we can do right
Okay, so you think those are space probably? People, okay.
now. Yeah, they need, actually, it should probably go this way.
We'll just give you
Brian, are you meeting people at the door?
Yeah.
This is only
Are people going to be talking throughout the entire meeting or just during public comments? Because I mean, at some point,
They wanted to we've got a bunch that were given to us ahead of time.
right,
And like he was gonna stand at the podium and read a bunch.
right.
So I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah.
You drilled 3 teeth?
After public comment, could we move it?
Yeah, that's what,
Potentially?
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah,
My
Yeah,
teeth on
right.
my
yeah, we'll just move
right
right
side, I don't have anything on at all.
And that's where,
It's kind of weird. Trying to eat dinner, I'm like, I can't eat
to
it's
find
weird, I
a
eat everything on one side of my mouth,
Sitting here?
so.
I don't.
I gotta go back. 2 weeks. She used to go to
Yeah. I miss him, I love him. But the new lady, she's good.
When? I thought Andy said
I
no
think
presentation, right?
No,
Yeah,
no.
I only miss him because of all the stuff from that treatment seems to be much more sort of aggressive than an event. He just kind of would look at me and, oh, your teeth are great and so forth. She's finding all kinds of problems I've never heard I had before. So.
One, two. Check.
You know what, I don't, oh,
Maybe not.
I don't have the,
It's on, I think.
Yeah.
but I mean, I didn't have the system turned on.
Oh, really?
Well, I turned it off and, you can check it before I turn it on. Yeah, that I heard. I heard a crackle.
Right. Yeah, China. Yeah. Check one. Okay, 1, 2. Okay. Sounds good. John will speak. John, there was a conversation
It's just communications and the new business out.
Yeah, we see. Yeah.
Once public comments is done, we can take this.
So, yes, Steve, so, you know, thinking ahead, our next regular meeting, which is like the 18th, there's a potential we could have the full board and the cabinet here, so we're going to talk about setup.
And I think we got the setup figured out. It's just going to hit the ground.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we do need that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab it.
Yeah, I think it would make it easier to screen down.
I thought about that. Well, as I told you, we're gonna have to sit over all on this side to get the next one.
I thought you could do that.
You're right. Hello, John. How are you today? I'm fine, thank you.
What was your thought?
Yeah, I was thinking that we could do.
There we go.
I should.
Why, if we put the cabinet over here, why do you?
Well, you're part of the trip.
No, I'm saying as long as we keep it.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right.
I mean, it was just, everything we did was terrific. There was not a bad day.
You know what, if we have space
You know, Charlie Hall was my surprise because So he got out there and he was telling me, he's like, so how do you think about all this? He goes, well, I'd like to try and describe it to all my friends, but I don't know how I'd be able to do that. He says, there's no words to describe it. But like, that's why you gotta come here. That's why you gotta come here and see this for yourself, because pictures, they'll take pictures, but they won't do them justice. I'm like, yeah, you know what, good for you. Castleberry says in your yard. Oh. You know how we put it.
You know, kid, did you know him?
Yeah, when does it sound about Montana?
I mean, you know him from around here?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Well, we used to, believe it or not, I used to run. I used to run a timber.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. No, I don't believe it either. Hard to believe.
You can hear that
I wish I still had it.
You're live on the screen.
No one doing who's survived by do that?
Yeah.
Oh, no kids, no.
But I didn't want to say that.
You know, I always thought I should.
She's a little intense. I don't know. She's really nice. She's been awesome. Yeah, we always stopped, when we were driving, we went to Bozeman for a night. Saw them over for dinner.
I thought I had
Yeah.
I saw him
It's up to
2
you.
years. Yeah, he's gone.
just because I didn't trust that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, he was a goofball. Well, that's good. Well, thanks for telling me.
Yeah, he remembers it. I was thinking of it.
Oh, I remember.
He made sure they was one of my telling you that.
Probably has some more functionality that we don't care about. But I thought I didn't say it. What's it next? He tries to probably too much. Like, yep.
Jerry, anything you'd pay would be too much. Can I contribute to that and help you out? Your deductible, can I? Your portion.
I just said, charge me for something else on call. Is there coming from?
Yeah.
That's good. Start.
I'll get it.
Get your bathroom done? No. I was on vacation last week. Vacation from work. We don't do it. It's like Jerry going on vacation.
Mike, is the email address school board public comments or just public comment?
It is school board public comment.
All right, thank you.
Let me see it.
Thank you.
There might be no comment, I did want to public comments that.
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Okay, all right, I wasn't sure if there were two.
Yeah, I'm only reading one, but either come to that or say that it's public comment.
The public, school board public comments.
Your questions, Pablo?
So you're gonna do the ones that have to be.
Yeah, they're
That has to be read at public.
Notice they come like this. Some ones they
We'll do those.
high and maybe.
Yeah,
There's
keep
people
you away
that
from
are
that.
they're cut out around the garage, so they don't do
How
that.
many people are there?
For public
The
comments.
hose is a little big. You
Yeah,
gotta,
15 and 10.
yeah, you gotta pinch them real hard right here. I like to wear these all day long. You wear these all day long, never take them off. Two of them. Half the floor doesn't, exactly. It's not that big anymore. I use their line, I lock. What's your own line? Yeah, like I've seen it back before it eats. So literally it's about five.
You look like you're doing an outdoor show.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, it could be one of the nonsense I
Does require some digging around to figure out which things are.
Yeah, it's not easy, but.
really don't like it.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Hey, Bill Bruce.
Good job.
What's your mansion about that? Now let's go home. Took off the suit when I got home from work.
Both sides of his pocket, suits at home.
George's gonna look into our cameras. The cameras, George's gonna look into it. A little bit, higher end and we've got. We're gonna get one in 6 too, they can do.
The camera that I'm doing for it, that's for, that I thought would have been awesome for the looking.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
The owl.
The owl, yeah.
Getting him is hard too, unfortunately.
Yeah. I thought, when I saw the price, I kind of, oh.
What's the email for public comment, that's the one asking?
School board public comments, all one word, at wcusd200.org.
Thank you.
Okay, my clock says 7 o'clock. Everybody ready?
This
This is the special meeting of August 4th, 2020 of the Woodstock Community Unit School District 200 Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The state of Illinois has altered provisions of the Open Meetings Act allowing boards to conduct business via electronic means and enforce limits on gathering size in accordance with CDC guidelines in regard to the COVID-19 outbreak. The current meeting capacity is 50 people. Mask and social distancing are required to attend the meeting. One member has asked to attend remotely. One board member has asked to attend remotely. Can we have the roll call, please?
Dr. Bidwell?
Here.
Dr. Ferris?
Present.
Mr. Gilmore?
Here.
Mr. Headley?
Here.
Mr. Homu?
Present.
Mr. Maselli? Here. Mr. Parisi?
Here.
Okay, we have tonight's meeting is for this express purpose of approving a plan to start the 2020-2021 school year. We're going to start with communications, and as we do with communications, this is an opportunity for public comments, staff comments, and board comments. Communications are a time for community members and district employees to express a point of view, not to debate an issue. There will be a sign-up sheet for the public to identify their name, address, phone number, name of organization you represent, if any, and a brief description of the topic to be addressed. The public can submit public comments electronically to the Board of Education through the following email address: School Board Public Comments, all one word in lowercase, at wcusd200.org. I'll repeat that for those who are watching. School Board Public Comments at wcusd200.org. Written comments will be read aloud at the meeting. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes, pursuant to Board Policy 2-230. So we will start with public comments, and we do have some people who have signed up to address the board at this point. We'll start with Mr. Bummer.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but please speak loudly because it is being broadcast.
Yep, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Good evening. First, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the upcoming school year plan. My name is Jake Bummer. My wife is a teacher in Woodstock School District. I also have a son going into first grade and a daughter in pre-K. I appreciate that the administration and the school leadership have been forced into becoming experts on logistics, virology, and global pandemic responses on the fly. I want to thank the leadership for their tireless efforts with regard to walking a fine line, balancing all these competing interests. I'm especially impressed with Superintendent Mullen, who took time to call me after I posted a public comment for the July school board meeting. With regard to the various proposals, fully online, hybrid, or fully in school, no decision will be risk-free. Also, no decision will be without complaints. However, as leaders in the school district and the community at large, you are tasked with the unfortunate challenge with trying to balance all these competing interests. We put our trust in you to look out for the well-being of our students, teachers, and families. We have seen other schools and organizations across the world make valiant efforts to make this work. We have seen these repeated efforts fail. Some groups, even with large and nearly unlimited budgets, people, and resources, have seen outbreaks almost immediately after starting them. So in the face of competing scenarios with only varying downsides, it is our best option to make the choice that saves the most lives. The only option that meets that criteria is fully online. Many of the neighboring districts have already made the decision to go online. There are so many questions that can't be answered by having even a hybrid model. Clearly, we all want schools to return to normal. We need clear objectives and metrics to make that happen. We need to know as a community when we are in a position to go back safely. The only ones that can make that assessment are the departments of health. Will fully going online for the school year be messy, difficult, frustrating? Absolutely. Will going on fully online save lives? Absolutely. Please consider this when rendering your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Gwen Wormley.
Hello. Just wanted to quickly just give a point of view. I'm in full support of a hybrid model and the kids going back to school, so I just wanted to address the board. As a parent, I see my responsibility as keeping my child safe and healthy As a parent, I see the district's responsibility as educating my child. Will you as a school district be able to provide the best education to the children of this community by going to remote virtual learning? Are you ready and equipped to move completely online? It's only been 3 months this summer. I have these questions. Regarding AP classes, can you assure me that my daughter, who is enrolled in 3 AP classes, will be handed the same rigorous, deeply loaded content and challenging discussion that she would be exposed to if she had in-person instruction? For the trades programs, will the students who are looking to the trades programs fall behind? I have 2 sons who took part in both woods and metals, and basically had spoke to me tonight and said, you have to be hands-on, you have to work with the machinery, you cannot do that remote. They tried to at the end of their senior year. There was very little that their teacher could do for them, although he tried very hard. The graphics is another thing. All 3 of my children took graphics. Will the kids have the technology at their disposal that the PCs of the classroom were loaded with and the printers that were available? What will art look like? What will PE accomplish? And how will the special needs children be assisted from the other side of a screen? These are the questions for the district's administration and staff to answer. That's your job. If these classes will be allowed to continue in person, even part-time, I will do my part in my job as a parent, and I will teach my child how to keep herself safe and healthy, and likewise teach them to keep others safe as well. Teacher risk, I understand that this is a concern for both the teachers and the children, and I just would like to emphasize that an outbreak does not mean death. That people can be exposed and people can have COVID does not mean a loss of life immediately. So given that the concern is teacher and children's safety, that's where I kind of feel like this plan is ideal. At-risk teachers could have the options to work remote. At-risk students can choose to learn remote. But if the concern and the reason to go full remote is based on the risk of exposure to the teaching staff by being in a classroom with school-aged children, then I ask these questions of you. Will you allow your teachers to continue to coach the students of D200 and therefore be involved with them and exposed with them? Will you require your teachers and staff to stay safe at home and not unnecessarily expose themselves to the potential of catching the virus? Will you advise them to not grocery shop or visit stores providing essential goods and services and instead use all pickup and curbside or delivery services? Going out obviously exposes them to the risk of contracting COVID. Will you advise them to not attend their own children's activities? Will you ask them to not frequent restaurants, gyms, or other local establishments where groups of 10 to 50 may come together? Because these are all the types of risks that we live with every day. If you look at the statistics being provided by the McHenry County Department of Public Health as of today, our zip code of 60098 makes up 16% of the confirmed cases in McHenry County. Just 16%. 84% of them fall outside of our area. Throughout all of McHenry County, 2,997 cases are reported. 10% are between the ages of 0 and 19. That's the school-aged children, okay? 0 to 5 is not even there. So 90% of the cases are not even found within school-aged children. And this is all of McHenry County. District 200 would be an even smaller subset of that 10%. And that doesn't even mean they're active cases. That's just the collective number that's been reported. So I don't see risk for coming together and putting kids back in classrooms with the required precautions of masks and physical distancing and the amount of cleaning that you are proposing to do. What I am saying is give it a try. You have proposed a plan that should meet the needs for all the different beliefs and desires of the parents in this community. Those who want kids in school and those who desire to just work remote. If it becomes too much, a mass spread of the virus takes place, or for whatever reason this hybrid approach just becomes too much for the district to handle, you can fall back on the remote learning plan. But what if it does work? What if it is a success and the kids of this community are able to continue to benefit from the positive experience of in-person instruction through this odd time? What if the success of a hybrid program puts Woodstock in the forefront for their forward-thinking, planning, and management of the education process? What if D200 sets a standard as a result of just giving it a try? I just say go for it.
Thank you very much. That's everybody who signed up to speak tonight. You don't have to sign up in order to speak. So if anybody would care to address the board at this time who's sitting in the audience, you're welcome to do that. I would ask if you feel comfortable doing so, giving us your name and who you are, and please step forward.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Eva Olson. I have two sons. One's in high school and one's in Creekside. And I appreciate the plan because it does give parents the option for the in-school learning. I am worried about my 7th grader because I don't want him to fall back on dual language. She's doing really well, and Woodstock has one of the best in the country, in my opinion. I know I'm biased, but I don't want him to fall back. In remote learning, it doesn't work. They need that bonding time with the teacher, and that way then maybe after that it could work if it, God forbid, needed to go in that direction. But for the dual language that he's doing really well in, that in person is so important for him. My older high school guy, actually before I comment on him, I just want to say too, I've heard from another parent in another school district who's going remote, and she's just like, my son is in dual language and I don't think he can make it remote. And so she's got a dilemma about pulling him out because they're going remote and doing something else with him. I don't know what she's going to do, but anyway, that's another district. My older son is in high school. He's doing really well, and he also supports the in-person. I wish he came with me tonight, but he's a teenager, so he's like, I don't want to be with all those adults right now. So he wanted me to stress that he does want the in-person. He does like the in-person idea with his plan. And that's all my comments. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for addressing the board. Are there any other audience members that wish to address the board at this time? Yes.
Sorry, just quickly, I have nothing written out. My point of view, I have a senior in special needs. He has regressed extremely horribly since March. His social skills have now fallen behind. His reading has fallen behind. He is adamantly opposed to the Google Meets. He won't interact with his teachers. He puts the screen up above his head so that they can't see him. He doesn't like the microphone. It's the feedback of the static and the craziness of all the kids changing screens that distracts him. It's hurt his education. I have a middle schooler also in dual language. He is also falling behind in Spanish because I can't help him. I can Google Translate some of his work to help him, but I don't have the resources to help him to the extent that he needs, so he's falling behind on that. And on a side note, if remote learning is 100% what the district is doing, I'm in a situation where I have to quit my job because I can't afford daycare for 2 children full-time. So I would prefer at least to be able to work 3 hours a day if they are doing that hybrid situation, because then at least I can provide at least a few meals for my family every day instead of quitting my job and relying solely on government to take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the board at this point? Okay, we did get...
Yeah, we have a number of comments. Keith and I are going to take turns reading them. I'm going to go first. All right, first one from Brad Boyle. Good evening, all. As all of you listen to public comments, I would ask that you keep a few important things in mind. First, if the kids do not return to school, please consider the consequences of the single parent and all the grandparents that will have to quit their jobs to try to school their children. Second, please consider the lack of academic achievement with those schooling kids with learning disabilities or those on special programs to help them keep up. All of that just goes away, so who bears responsibility for this? Third, just like last year, teachers will likely have the bad habit of dumping homework on the kids and then chastising them for poor performance when they don't complete their assignment. Last year, my kids spent their time online with their teachers and had 3 to 6 hours or more homework. Sorry, it's unacceptable. Teaching is an essential job. Teachers need to get back to work just like the rest of the world. The risk is no larger than others that work in retail or other jobs requiring human interaction. I pray that the board listens to both sides, both public opinion and the teachers, and comes to a good compromise that's good for everyone. For your time, Brad Boyle.
I'm reading these comments on behalf of Linda Bastian. My name is Linda Bastian. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the orchestra director at WHS and CMS. I had the opportunity to join this amazing district almost 8 years ago and sincerely love my job and students. I am writing because I am scared to be inside with staff and students for significant periods of time. Our administration has done an amazing job showing they care for our students and staff by creating the schedule with our input and facilitating many safety protocols. However, I'm not convinced this will keep the virus from spreading in our schools. Not due to lack of amazing effort from everyone in D200, but due to the reality of this awful virus. I'd like to suggest that we start remote until our numbers stop growing in the county and phase our way back into schools similarly to what we've done as a state. I'm not sure that going from 0 students to hundreds a day will keep us or our community safe. We all have handled this pandemic differently. While I respect everyone's right to do what's best for their family, I just wonder how we couldn't have an outbreak with everyone's different exposure levels. I shared before that I'm scared. I'm scared for selfish reasons. I have a young son at home and a husband who is working remotely that I don't want to infect, and I'm concerned at high risk myself. I'm also scared because about 2 years ago, my students and I lost a classmate. It was ridiculously hard on them and hard on me. To this day, I still have students who need to take a moment because his death has saddened them so deeply. I don't want my kids to go through this again if I have control over it. As you know, we have seen over 150,000 deaths in our country already, and while I'd like to believe we're all strong and it will just be like the flu, if we get it, I see countless articles on perfectly healthy adults and kids dying from COVID. This is scary and not something I want to see us go through. Seeing a student in such pain and not being able to hug them now or console them would be extremely mentally challenging. And let's face it, I think we're all a bit mentally exhausted from everything going on already. I'm also concerned about the long-term effects COVID is now being reported to have on our kids and families. We teach some of the most awesome kids in District 200 and don't want to see them or my wonderful colleagues hurting. I appreciate all the effort and work that's gone into these plans, I really do. I want to be back in my classroom teaching my kids and making music. I miss their laughs, their music, and their stories. I just want to make sure no one is going to pass on in the process of us trying to return to normal during a pandemic. We've really only got one opportunity to do this right. I'd like to thank my principals, Dr. Belicelli and Mr. Wheatley, for all they've done doing to help our concerns feel heard and help us problem solve. I also appreciate Dr. Moen and Dr. Smith for taking the time to work with us on classroom and teaching logistics. I am so lucky to work here and just ask you to consider my email. Thank you, Linda Bastian.
All right, mine is from Amanda Yasnaski. As a teacher in Woodstock 200, I can tell you that every virtual meeting I've attended so far has always started in the same way. We want to do what's best for kids, right? Every time I went, because that phrase is being used to coerce educators to come back into the classroom. Yes, of course, we want to do what's best for the kids. That's why every single one of us is a profession. We want to educate kids, we want to support their love for learning. We want to give them a safe environment to grow and flourish in. As educators, we have even had to come to terms with the fact that one day we may need to take a bullet for kids we don't even know yet. Attending school face-to-face is not best for kids, not best for teachers, not best for support staff. School will not be a welcoming, safe environment. School will be a place of fear for educators and students. There will be no toys for my kindergarten students to play with. There will be no rugs to sit on for story time. There will be no hugs for students and their families. There will be no books for students to thumb through or centers for them to explore. There will be no small groups where we will work collaboratively. There will be no smiles or reassurance. Not with masks. School will not be a place where children will flourish or feel safe. Region 9 has seen a 15-day positivity increase. Illinois as a whole has seen a dramatic upswing in new cases since late June. We don't know how COVID-19 will spread to our classrooms. We don't know how it will spread from family to family or student to teacher. We don't know how long it will affect the virus. We don't know if teachers and parents will die. We don't know if our students will be hospitalized. How can we be so certain that this is the best choice for our students? As Is this what it's going to happen? I don't believe so. I love being a teacher. I'm in my classroom. I would do anything for my students. I accept the fact that I could even die protecting them, but I will not accept the fact that I could bring home something and make my immunocompromised husband or newborn daughter sick or die. Please do what's best for us. Allow remote learning just as Huntley and McHenry just like has done so before you. Let us wait and see if we're truly doing what's best for all. Thank you.
Dear Dr. Monin, Board of Education, my name is Kelly Steele and I teach first grade monolingual education at Olson. I love my job, I love my students and their families, and I love my colleagues. I am so thankful for the thoughtful, time-consuming, children-first effort you have all put forth during this unprecedented season to create a plan that considers so many needs of the community, children, and staff. I could not imagine the stress and havoc it has caused, the sleepless nights and headaches you've had to manage. I appreciate it all very much. I am writing today to ask that we start with remote learning. You have seen the statistics. Our cases are rising in Illinois and McHenry County. You have probably seen my concerns on the COVID concerns document teachers filled out earlier, which lists all my concerns with scientific-based research backing each concern. But today I'm writing from a different perspective. I want to go to school. I want my students in school. I want my own children in school, as do all of you and our entire community. This desire is for many, many different reasons. But we must remember it is a want. I understand we need our children in school too, but we need to do that safely. It does not appear at this moment in time that can be done. When I began the first day of school, I inevitably have that wide-eyed little human being with tears in their eyes, missing mommy and daddy, saying goodbye in the playground. Their first time at this big school with lots of kids and new faces because Bearda is split among many schools. But there I am. I have a big smile, a sparkly sign, and 2 arms waiting and eager to wrap them around this little person, assuring them they will be okay. They will make new friends. I will help them. I love them the entire day and every day after forever. I hold that hand as we walk in, give them special jobs throughout the day, wiping the board, line leader, light helper, have them help me with other friends. At the end of the day, everyone always gets a hug or high five if they choose. This year, none of this will happen. This year, when a friend is crying, can I hug them? No. This alone breaks my heart. I hug my little people every day. When they get hurt, when their feelings are hurt, when they do a good job, or because they just want one. I have older students come back because they just want a hug. How will I comfort my kids without making them feel bad? I hate that I have had to create a way to care for them while also protecting myself. I hate that I have to choose a hug or my help. Will they see my smile eagerly greeting them? No. Normally they read my face daily. We teach them to read facial expressions to understand feelings. A smile can change someone's day. How can I do that behind a mask? I wonder, how will I learn names? I won't even see their cute little faces. It makes me so sad. I have seen videos from other places following guidelines and what school will look like, and it breaks my heart that these tiny people have to endure this. I don't want my students or myself to be part of this experiment. People haven't been able to keep COVID out of summer camps, summer schools, daycares, schools that have opened in Indiana, and even Major League Baseball, which has unlimited resources and money. I just don't understand how we are going to keep it out of our schools. It scares me to think my students or colleagues could end up with COVID and suffer any of the fates COVID carries with it, which is why I encourage you tonight to change course and have us do remote learning to start the year. And as things are looking better, tackle school with the amazing plan you've already created. Again, I want to thank you for those plans and all the effort put forth to create them. Thank you for your time. Kelly Steele.
All right, Stephanie, please continue with your planned reopening, especially for the K-5 students and their planned small pods. The McHenry County positivity rate is finally going back down this week. Your plan can stay as well possible. Also, could you please help make sure our dedicated teachers have KN95 masks? Thank you for all your hard work in this difficult time. Cindy Stephanie.
Good evening. My name is Tom Donar, and I'm entering my 4th year as a district employee. I also live in Woodstock, and my children attend school in District 200. As an educator, I want students to come back to school more than anyone. I chose this profession because I love it and the relationships I'm able to build with students and staff. I did not choose a profession in online instruction. I went in-person instruction. However, we are in the middle of a pandemic that has not been controlled. The positivity rate in our region has gone up from 3.2% to 5.3% in the past month, including an increase almost every day since July 19th. In just McHenry County, the positivity rate 7-day average is over 7% according to the McHenry County COVID-19 dashboard. The pandemic is worse now than it was on March 13th when the governor shut schools down. I asked the board members to vote tonight to change the hybrid plans to full remote learning, as so many school boards in Lake County and McHenry County have done recently. As you probably know, this includes school districts around Woodstock, such as Huntley, Harvard, Crystal Lake, and McHenry. I ask you to do it for the entire first semester as well. As was commented at the Harvard School Board meeting last week, right before the board voted unanimously for 100% remote learning, it is easy to make the change to come back before then if conditions vastly improve. The day before, the McHenry 15 School Board had a similar conversation. The original motion was for only 6 weeks of remote learning. Then, after discussion, the change was made for the entire first trimester and then agreed upon. As they said, if you do it for a short period of time, families and teachers are unable to get it into a full productive routine because they do not know what the near future holds. When students, parents, and staff have the attitude of this may change in a couple of weeks, they are less likely to put forth their best effort and go all in on learning, as they know a change may be coming. I also ask that you trust in our amazing teaching staff and do not mandate them to report to the buildings. Guidelines should be made for teachers, and as long as they can meet those guidelines instructing virtually from home, they should not be required to teach in an empty classroom just to appease those against remote instruction. I have seen a handful of districts around the state mandate it, and it shows a massive distrust in the teaching staff. We have highly rated schools for a reason. Let the teachers decide where they can do their best work. This has been the D200 philosophy in the past, and it has worked out well. Everyone is safer at home. However, some teachers may need to come into the classroom because they have more materials available to them for certain lessons. For this reason, it should be optional that teachers come in. This way it helps those that need access to their classrooms and will keep our custodians employed at the same time without putting them at a high risk they would have if students were to return to the buildings. Please keep the safety of our staff and students in mind when you make this decision. Thank you for your time and hard work. Tom Donar.
Peter and Cindy. We fully support and delight in in-person classes. This will be our 5th year in District 200, our 4th year at Olson. We love the teachers and staff as much as we love a normal school year where everyone can interact in person. If it means putting our teachers, staff, students, and community at high risk, it's just not worth doing. I know everyone involved has worked their hardest to try and implement a safe reopening, but those best efforts still may do little to curtail transmissions of the virus. I have faith that our teachers will do a remarkable job providing our children with a great e-learning education until the case do otherwise. Thank you for voting to postpone. Peter and Cindy Cussy.
My name is Christopher Rausch, and I will soon begin my 10th year teaching K and pre-K music at Bearded Deersen. I teach over 500 students multiple times each week. Many public statements read tonight will reference the safety of our students, teachers, and community. I already submitted questions regarding the safety of our students and staff and the practicality of most earnestly developed in-person plans. This statement is different. It is personal. To whomever reads it out loud for the board to consider, I thank you. This is important to me. My son Callahan is almost 2.5 years old. He speaks like a smart little adult, and we talk and play together all day. He's my best friend. My favorite part of each day is when he wakes up from his nap. I hear his quiet voice calling, "Daddy," but he doesn't cry. He knows he is safe, and he knows I am there. I pick him up, and he gives me the most genuine, heartfelt, biggest hug and whispers, "I love you so much," into my ear as he sweetly kisses my neck. I always try my best to focus only on that moment, to really embrace my son and feel all the love he's giving as it's happening, but my mind can't contain itself. I still smile and say, "I love you, sweet, sweet Callahan," and hug him tighter, but as his little head rests on my neck, he doesn't see the flood swelling in my eyes. I blink quickly, trying as best I can to force my tears back inside. Most times I can do it, but sometimes my tears fall onto his neck and he softly asks, "Daddy, why are you crying?" I used to say my eyes were watering up because I was yawning, and he believed me for a while, but it's not working anymore. He knows something is wrong, and he is right. COVID-19 spreads and kills fast. We know the population most gravely affected, but it's also killing young, healthy people too. More verified studies cite serious and lasting heart and organ damage months after recovery, even in patients with no comorbidities who were mostly asymptomatic. Children's role in the virus hasn't been studied much because we have protected them thus far. Studies are now emerging which state children indeed contract and transmit COVID-19, evidenced by both common sense and failed attempts at reopening in-person children's activities. Nobody can say what it will do to Callahan and his little lungs, and something inside my head keeps telling me my body won't be able to handle it. Crazy? I don't know. Sometimes I even convince myself I'm overreacting. There are so many words and actions rapidly spreading which minimize COVID-19 severity, but this contagious minimization only maximizes COVID's destructive weight. This is why I'm afraid. When I hold my baby boy and he kisses me and says he loves me, I cry because I wonder, if I'm dead in 2 months, how long will it be until he forgets the bond we share? He's only 2.5, and even though I know with all my heart he loves me right here and now, I also know those early memories fade. Maybe if the lasting effects of COVID kill me in 2 years, he'd remember me then. I am against rushing back to in-person schooling because it contradicts everything I've done for the past 5 months. It puts my family in danger and me at a significantly higher risk to die and be forgotten by the boy I love most. To leave my lovely wife alone to explain it to him. We are all worried about our students and our community, but I need to share my truest concern for me and my family. As I write this, I am sure Callahan will soon wake up from his nap and we'll do our happy, sad hugs again. Let's validate surrounding school districts' decisions to begin the year remotely. Regional virus control will be most effective if the entire region participates. Thank you.
Paula Baumgartner. I think we should follow suit to other districts around us and start school with remote learning. This is for the safety of the teachers and the students. This round is affecting more than 16 and 25-year-olds. Several students and teachers have underlying health issues. It could be a health concern. These two numbers come back down and then start classes again. And you can take any time to read this and understand that has to be a hard decision to make to include all family situations.
My name is Sol Donar, and I am about to begin my 4th year as a district employee in District 200. I live in Woodstock, and my children attend District 200 schools. Many districts nearby, including McHenry, Huntley, Harvard, and Crystal Lake, have made the correct decision to start school with only remote learning. This action shows that their administration and school boards do not want to risk the health of their students and staff by reopening schools during a rising pandemic. How is it appropriate that they start with remote learning, yet Woodstock, which has one of the highest number of cases in McHenry County, is still planning on reopening? We can take Monmouth, Roseville, District 238, a West Central Illinois school district, as another example. Their region has a significantly lower positivity rate than ours. They were also social distancing, wearing masks, and in a well-ventilated room. Despite their best efforts, many staff members, including the superintendent, contracted COVID from their meeting. The superintendent then took it home and passed it on to all of his family members. Since this spread came from a meeting with only adults, it also proves that teachers should not be mandated to go to school either, since it still can spread the virus and those teachers affected could spread it to their family. This is what it took for that district to change course to remote learning. But I am hoping tonight the school board can make the decision that is safest for our students and staff before that scenario happens to anyone. We need to take all preventative measures available to us, not reactionary ones. On Sunday, I drove past Von Bergen's Country Market in Hebron, a popular place to visit for Woodstock families. Although outside there were far more than 50 cars in their parking lot and well over 50 people on the premises, some without masks and not all were social distancing. Also, many families are now taking a final summer vacation and traveling around, and this will certainly lead to an even higher rate when school is scheduled to start. By reopening schools, even with the measures in place, we are sure to help the positivity rates rise in our area. My union and administration keep telling me remote learning was not an option for us, yet no one can tell me why. We just did the final quarter in remote learning. Everyone got a device and all got internet hotspots when needed. The remote learning was less than ideal and always will be, but it is the only option available to guarantee the safety of staff and students during a pandemic. I keep hearing that our safety is the #1 concern, but without choosing 100% remote learning, your actions are speaking differently. We are far more prepared now for remote learning than we were on March 13th, and should be putting our time and resources into that model, because one way or another we will be back to it. There are far more cases now than there was then, and the recent positivity rates continue to climb. It is much easier to transition from remote learning to in-person learning than the other way around, which is why the decision should be made for the entire first semester, just as the Harvard School District did last week, stating that they could still reopen any time in the first semester if the situation calls for it. Changing too much back and forth will take away much more instruction time than just going all in on remote learning now, and families will not be required to change their schedules over and over again. As both my husband and I have worked in public schools for a combined 12 years, we have seen parents send their children to school sick far too often, probably because they cannot afford to miss a day of work, or at the high school level, the students feel they cannot miss a day of school. Most times they take ibuprofen or Tylenol to mask their fever and hope they can make it through the day. This is not a criticism, I am just pointing out a fact. And this will not stop because many of our families are in a worse economic situation than they were previously. Please use this opportunity to make the safest choice for our community. Health should be everyone's #1 concern because without it, nothing else matters. So don't worry.
Okay, this is from Jimmy Dix. I want to share my thoughts. I choose for all 3 of my students, 4th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade hybrid. I chose, I'm sorry, for all 3 of my students, 4th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade hybrid, because prior to the survey, I sent a number of questions, never received any answers. By choosing hybrid, I felt at least that I could switch to remote if I didn't get answers they felt were safe for my kids. I'm a former district teacher, parent of 2 students, and elementary sub. This time I'm thankful I'm not a teacher, definitely will not be subbing this year. I was doing it all for the joy rather than money. We have stayed home, stayed 6 feet apart, followed the distance and mask wearing since March. My 4th grade is scared to go to school. We're probably going to switch for remote learning, which is fine, because her best friend is remote, so at least they can work together. Sometimes we can play outside together. We let families been safe because my 8th grade wanted to go for sports, but no decision seems to be happening. Probably will switch for remote. She knows that going to school won't be like last year, no fun lunches, no locker visits, no after school activities, no concerts, no talking with friends in groups in class, no fun at all. My senior wants to be in school classes, include orchestra, graphics, cooking, physics, strength, weighting, etc. Many hands-on classes, we also play soccer. This is his last year in Woodstock, which has been a great part of since pre-K. He wants to have a few memories of the year. I want him to be safe and healthy. He wants to go to school because it's senior year. Teaching our kids were all safe March through May. There have been 2 cases because we all stayed at home. Cases of young kids are rising now because rules of looseness and activities are happening. I can't get an answer about what will happen. The student or teacher tests positive. The class quarantine for 14 days. The whole family is in the student quarantine. Do the sibling classes have to quarantine? What about teachers work from school? Do those classes quarantine? Also, desks be cleaned each class at middle and high school because they are allowed to remove masks and apply the desks to contaminated desks. I feel that we be safe as the district required first quarter, maybe first semester, stay at home learning. I know teachers, they actually work harder planning remote lessons than in-class lessons. Many teachers last year had 12 to 14 work-hour days. We should switch to remote learning and slowly phase back into the classroom as we see numbers from Kent County decline and increase. I really want my senior to have a final concert for 9 years of involvement. I really want to watch him play a final varsity soccer game in senior year. These things won't happen if we can't get this virus under control. We start the school year off in school and then have to switch to remote. Kids will be exposed, and teachers will be exposed along with their families. It will be even more work for teachers who will be spending the next 2 weeks setting up their rooms to be safe while they could actually be spending some time preparing for e-learning lessons. Please vote to switch our district to full remote learning for the first quarter. Reevaluate that time to run to make this change. We want the safety of our teachers to protect them. So they want to come back and teach our kids next year. Take care of the kids. The teachers soon get sick and hospitalized for long, so the worst side. How our community recover from that when we do what could have been prevented. Thanks.
My name is Susan White, Math and Technology Instructional Coach for Creekside Middle School and Northwood Middle School. I am heading into my 20th year working for this wonderful school district, calling it home to 2 of my own children. I wanted to express my feelings and concerns regarding our return to school in just a couple of weeks. My concerns are being expressed as a parent in the district first and foremost, as well as an immunocompromised staff member. First, let me say that I applaud, respect, and commend our administrators for all of the time they have been putting into creating a safe plan for our return. However, I do not believe that our administration can control a safe return during the pandemic any more than our government, scientists, and medical professionals have been able to. I know they would never intentionally put us in harm's way, but good intentions can get tangled with complex execution, and there is nothing as complex as a safe return to school for thousands of staff and students. There are so many unknowns, questions unanswered, and plans still to be ironed out, with student arrival just around the corner. Doing things in haste can result in carelessness, despite the best intentions of planning. So I'm concerned about the safety of my son, my husband, colleagues, and our community as a whole. In addition to looking out for the safety of others, I am also very concerned for my own safety. As mentioned before, I am considered high risk. Up until the return of school, my family and I have been following all safety protocols, being very careful about where we go, who we see, and when that mask comes off. It's been a difficult and trying 4.5 months, as I know the concern for my safety has prevented my family from being able to do things and go many places. That said, my husband, my son, and I will now be placed into a situation where our exposure is beyond our control. I understand that many members of our community have mixed feelings and views on the pandemic, some much more relaxed about it than others. With my health, that is not a luxury my family and I can afford. With cases on the rise and other districts changing their hybrid plans to remote instruction, I ask that we consider creating a plan for in-person instruction that gets rolled out in phases, like our country and state have done. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The more time we take to create a systematic rollout plan, I believe the safer we can return and the more confident staff, students, and families will feel with returning. If we keep the hybrid schedule that we have, I hope you understand that my commitment to our district will remain unwavering. I will work to support the administration, staff, students, and community to the best of my ability, no matter the circumstances, as I know the people in our district will strive to make the best of any situation. Thank you for your time and consideration. Susan White.
This is from Shelby Vanderstate. Good evening. I'm writing as a current staff member. I believe our district has come up with the best hybrid learning plan, the plans that I've read about in McHenry and Lake County areas and across the country. I am and have always been very proud to be staff member of this district. Even with a very good hybrid learning model in place, I've had concerns with going back to school. Too many to name in one email, but I'd like to mention a few. One, in all the many staff meetings we've had, there have been several questions each time unable to be answered by administration, from logistics dealing with in-person and virtual students, simultaneously to what would happen if the student or staff member contracts COVID-19. In fact, certain questions may be answered not by false administration, simply because of the numerous variables as far as the fact that the hybrid model of learning includes it will not be an effective way of starting the school year. Two, we cannot prevent students from spending time in large groups outside of school. They will not affect social distancing, and even just by living at home with family members for work, attend other schools, etc. It's unavoidable that someone or several students will contract the virus. They will never really bring the virus to school by being asymptomatic carriers. I personally fall in the high-risk category for COVID-19 as many other staff members. Why I believe masks and social distancing are preventative measures. How can prevent students from removing their masks that take a drink of water in a 90-degree room that has no air conditioning, potentially spread the virus? Will this really be beneficial to our kids who return to school in a way where they cannot sit next to each other in class, cannot participate in partner or group work and discussions, nor can they eat lunch together, congregate in the hallways, socialize like they used to do it? Will this not be more traumatizing than having to participate in e-learning for a while longer? 4, and if they lose a classmate or teacher to the virus, will not be the most traumatic of all? Are we willing to risk the life of one of our own kids or teachers just to give kids a better learning environment? And then state number 3, I would argue this model does not provide a good environment for students or staff. At the end of the day, like I said, I believe the administration has called for a good hybrid model learning plan. But at the end of the day, I do not think this will be good for our community, not for the students, the staff, and the families. Would you consider the fact that several other districts in the surrounding area have already chosen to start an affiliate remote learning model and follow their lead to protect our community and most importantly, protect our students? I'm going to be back in the classroom with the kids more than anything, but to not be able to sit with them in small groups, to go next to the desk to help when they're needed, to be behind a mask. This to me sounds far less ideal and not an environment I want to work in, especially not only have a better option available. Thank you for your time. I strongly urge you to vote for a remote learning plan, at least for the first quarter of the school year. And 2 more. For the record, Keely had longer ones, but I have more.
Yours were pretty short.
But I did more. It was random how we got it. All right. This comes from Nikki Roberts. Hello to all the board. I have a kindergarten with a very weird immune system that I won't send him. His father is an essential. We do have families that get sick a lot as well. And all this COVID, we need to with all this COVID, we think of parents and students, not just us ourselves. If we went to school and it didn't work, we have to think we fall back and we will again confuse our little. The parents will have to kind of consider ASAP. Sorry to say, keeping our littles home will be the safest way. Until numbers are gone and COVID is cured. Our kids need socialization, hug, love, have to be apart from friends and communicate the way they need to. Yes, this is hard, but our kids are a priority. We should be in school, but I taught to make kids' school a safe zone when mommy and daddy aren't there. But now masks are around, this is not safe. But I tell my son I want him safe and not sick all the time. Thank you so much for your time and for working with us as parents and as staff. All right. Kelly Reed, I urge you to consider the health care disparities among families. In case of a parent at school, some children may be able to access the health care needed to mitigate the progression of COVID-19, while others have the potential to spread to their respective family members and may not have an option to seek proper health care. I understand both sides of the argument. A part of the community means protecting those most vulnerable, especially when the top-down approach to education during the pandemic has failed the majority of American students and ignored the serious implications of the virus had. To facilitate change means we must actively seek to be innovative. This means ensuring education for all in a safe manner. This means working to enhance the virtual experience and give it the validity it deserves. Learning is an experience that can and should be transformative in our changing world. This is an opportunity to protect all and blaze the way to effective virtual learning. The pandemic is not attacking people's lives, especially those of children and those who are vulnerable. On that check, I believe it's our That's all we have so far.
All right, that is all of the people who have submitted online during the meeting as well, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that is everybody we have on our list. I'll give everyone in the audience another chance, if anyone would like to address the board at this point, to step up and address the board. Okay. Then we'll conclude our public comments. The next item then on our agenda is staff comments. Are there any staff comments? Okay, then we'll move on to board comments. Are there any board comments? All right, before we move into the new business of the approval of the plan and the discussion of the plan, which there will be further discussion from the board members at that point if they so choose, I did want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to come to this board meeting, who took the time to write notices, emails to us and send in their thoughts. You can tell we have a complicated decision, but we've listened to everything that you have to say, and we've read, even if your email was not submitted for public comment, it was just submitted to the board, we have read all the emails, and we've paid close attention to what's going on. One thing I think I'd like everybody to think is that there is no right answer here. There's nobody's right and nobody's wrong. We're dealing with a new situation, and we have to deal with it in the best way that we think we know how. And all the comments that were heard tonight were thoughtful and valid, and you know, we're going to have to make a decision at some point, and as I think Mr. Brummer pointed out, no decision is going to go without somebody being unhappy with it. That's just the nature of what we're dealing with right now. So I hope everybody takes that in mind and keeps that in mind when we go into the discussion and we have further discussion on what the proposals are. Any other board comments? Okay, then at this point we will move into our single item of new business, which is approval of the plan to start the 2020-2021 school year.
So the first plan that you presented was our hybrid plan, which we've modified in a couple ways. I want to go through that quickly. I know we've gone through it, but we were able to add the elementary bus in the midday. That was the one thing we heard from parents that they wanted most. And we were able to do that. We had much smaller bus issues at the high school than we had basically. So that was a major plan there. You also see attached to that are a number of pages of health documents. You know, our plan for exclusion, for COVID issues, for mandatory quarantine for students affected by that. Done with the consultation of the County Health Department. But I think we're fairly conservative in that if there was a question, we quarantined longer than needed, just to make sure that we were keeping everyone safe. That's a priority. So that's the tweaks we had to the hybrid plan. Then we have our remote learning plan.
Before you move on to that.
Sure.
Just one quick question, I'm not clear on this. If an individual tests positive for COVID-19 and they are quarantined for 14 days, would they then receive instruction by remote, or would they be removed from instruction altogether?
No, they have the opportunity to receive instruction remotely. Obviously, any illness we'd have to treat like we do now. But I mean, they wouldn't be excluded from instruction, they'd have remote instruction. But, I mean, you have to understand, the disease everyone's differently, so the kid, if the student had a severe reaction to it, they couldn't have instruction, we would work around that. But they would have the opportunity, yes.
All right, thank you.
So then we have our remote learning plan. We had to give our staff opportunity on a couple of occasions to meet with us to help develop it. There's some big changes in our remote plan from what we did in the spring. One of the largest is it calls for 2.5 hours a day of live instruction for every student, K through 12. Pre-K is different, it's much smaller because they don't want them in front of the screen. But 2.5 hours of live instruction every day. We went through at the elementary level, give you some idea of just what that looks like. We built in social emotional learning at the elementary level. I think that's a key part of whatever we're going to do. I think, the social emotional aspects of this, whether we come back or remote, are incredible. And we have to continue to deal with them if we're remote or if we're live, because a couple parents have spoken to that. That's a huge concern of ours. We're working with Kristen Towers now as a national expert, but that's something we have to work on tremendously in whichever plan we use. We've got small group reading instruction in elementary in our remote plan, which we think is important. That was the feedback we got from parents and teachers with small groups of kids. We had more success. Math, we've got specials in there, so they're going to get specials virtually. Some more schedule work, and then just give you a little bit of work of what pre-K would look like. Then we go to middle school. In middle school and high school, we went back to the block schedule that we had in the spring. We worked with our staff to come up with, when you look at traditional block, when we go back and forth, I think that there was a lot of concern about traditional just being the kind of a screen drain of, there's 7, 8, 9 classes, one after another. We thought the block gave us an opportunity to do a little more of a break in there. Still, the 2.5 hours of live synchronous is the state defines it, live instruction, 5 hours of total instruction between synchronous and asynchronous in the same day. So that'd be middle school, high school, a 40-minute live instruction for each period every day. Our attendance, we're going to take attendance. Grading is much more open by the state. We're going to grade. We're going to take attendance. We're going to have assignments. There's going to be live instruction. It has to simulate instruction as close as we can to what we would have in a normal setting, a normal situation. We have to return to rigor in our classroom. Not that we didn't do that in the spring, but I think there were a lot of parameters set in place that people in different areas took it to mean different things. Were we actually doing the work? Did you have to do the work? But now, when we go remote, if we go to start or something, we have to go to it. It's what we do, and it has to become a normal school setting for our students because we need that. I think everyone will agree on that. Those are some of the main takeaways. We've got handouts to parents, communication, grading, absences. We would give Chromebooks to kindergartners. We got the feedback that not having, we don't want them on a Chromebook all day, but not having that device was harder for parents and teachers. It'd be much easier if we had one device. pre-K, we think we do, we gotta work through that, because that's a much smaller window of time. So, I mean, at the end, I can take questions on the remote, if anyone has them specific.
I do have a question in reference to one of the parents who spoke earlier. Will we allow teachers to be in the building to do their instruction?
In our plan, we would allow it. The problem with mandating it is,
No, I don't want to mandate, I'm just asking if it's...
I'm going to explain what we're doing.
Okay, go ahead.
We actually, I told the staff on that, had feedback on it. I have concerns both ways. The staff almost overwhelmingly would like to have that option. So in our plan, we give it to them. We don't mandate it, because I think one thing we have to understand, I'm going to talk about in a second, the CARES Act that's been put in place, any parent that has a student impacted by education can take 10, 12 weeks. It's similar to having family medical leave. They can be off work for that period of time. Anyone around us currently qualifies as that, because every school that touches us is now remote learning. So I think, by not giving some flexibility there, if we went remote at the same time other districts had, we would be losing staff members. That, again, any step we take that loses or limits the amount of staff we have would impact us.
Right, what was the question?
John asked if we would allow teachers to come in the building to teach. Was it a long answer to a short question?
I had a question too in terms of the remote learning. With the live instruction, how is this going to be handled for kids who are in daycare or the parents are working and can't facilitate that for them?
Yeah, we're going to have to work through that. It's going to look differently in every situation, different from grade level to grade level. But our want is really to get as many kids as possible on there, because that's the state, if you read the plan, that's what they want. They also want kids interaction with each other, whenever possible. And I think the only way to do that is when we have that set time and that time to go. Now, obviously, if they can't, we'll work with them. But I think what we need to try to stress is we need that live interaction whenever possible. And that's our goal. If we can't get it, we'll work with people, but our absolute goal is to have that, because that's the best chance we have at engaging students, building relationships, and getting the results we need.
If a parent knew that was going to be a challenge for them, what would be the next best step for them, the person to reach out to? And
The classroom teacher and the principal. We'll work something out with parents that can't do it, but we really need to stress that we need that. Because the feedback we got from our staff, our parents, our kids was that live interaction was crucial. And we need that whenever possible. We need to stress that. Questions about the plan?
So, kind of going off of what John said, how is other districts handling the mandate for staff to be there or not?
It's a split.
I mean, in that you're saying that we struggle to mandate because of the CARES Act. What are those districts' answers for that?
They don't have an answer. To the best of my knowledge, the groups I'm part of are split. Some are mandating, some aren't. But I know we'll lose instruction, we'll lose teachers if we go that way. And again, whatever the board wants to do, I'll do. But I think we have to go remote. We want to keep as much of our live instruction from our current instructors as possible.
I think it's good to give them the option of where they want to do it.
I think that option's good too. We got this at 3:30 this afternoon, and obviously there's a lot of lines in between the bullet points there. One of the questions that I'm getting is, if we did go to remote only from the plan that we're on now, would we be pushing back the start date at all to be able to implement all of the plan for remote learning at this point?
I don't come up with that start date. We have talked about elementary having a rolling start where we would have more the first day or two, the teachers doing live interaction with parents on virtual meetings.
And then I think one of the next questions I've got, again, we had a parent comment here today, and a lot of parents that I'm hearing from are parents with students who have different challenges as far as education goes and IEPs. My question is, at this point, we're not state mandated out of school as we were in the spring. If we did go to remote learning as the model, is there an opportunity there to build in some in-person interaction for students who have additional needs and have specific IEPs where they are doing one-on-one instruction and things like that?
So we can try. I think, you know, if you want, if we go remote, we would look at a number of options. But the factor is going to be how we can pull them off staff-wise.
No, please.
One of my concerns that I've heard from a lot of teachers through the last several weeks is that the education remotely kind of created two tiers of students. Those that were motivated continued to go. The kids who struggled or had issues in home life, whatever it might have been, disengaged even more. And there was a real concern with the remote from a lot of staff members I spoke with about creating this two-tiered system. So my question is, if kids do disengage, how, and Michelle might have touched it once a little bit, I just didn't hear everything there, because I'm an old man, I don't hear so well. When kids do disengage, do we have any protocol to reach out to them more effectively so that they get it back? I mean, if we're going to go remote, we need to make sure that we're doing the best job that we possibly can. And I don't feel like the spring did that, and I'm not bashing teachers, that's not the issue. I mean, they weren't able to enforce grades, et cetera, there's some many issues. But I do have concerns that as we go that direction, that we're going to reach more kids than we certainly did before. So that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at our numbers, you know, when you say reach and engage, they're two different things. We reached 90. I mean, you know, our kids were on, and they were aware of what we were doing. They weren't engaged at the same level. And I think we'd have to look and see as we go why was that. One, we believe more live instruction is going to help solve that, because what engaged our students was live instruction. The synchronous learning of being, you know, when you're on a Google Meet with your class, that simulates being in a classroom. And that brings more to the environment of collaboration that we want. It allows the teachers to have a relationship and engage, build relationships with their students. So we hope that's part of it. I think the grade component, you know, in the upper schools was a factor. I don't know what percent I would give it, but it was a factor that some kids didn't have to do as much, and if they only knew a little bit, they were fine. Losing that, you know, again, but you know, there's a certain percent of our students we have, you know, well, anyway, John, that we have to work really hard to engage. Is it going to be harder when we're remote? Absolutely. There's no question. I haven't heard from anybody that doesn't think that's going to be hard. I think the one thing we looked at was, you know, where we, you know, I think we picked up on it probably maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks into it last time, was really following up quicker when we had students that missed assignments, whether we weren't getting the class. So I think that becomes paramount earlier. Just making that connection. Okay, we need you. Where are you? How to get back with you? But that absolutely is a concern remote. There's no question. It's a huge concern.
What about this is maybe going too far, but actually making personal contacts at their homes? I mean, if we have kids who aren't doing much data, and there are kids out there who've done that. I've talked with numerous teachers that support that. I mean, I just want to do everything possible to reach all the kids that we can. And I just feel like that's my biggest concern and hurdle to go remote, even though I have a lot of reasons to go remote too. That's the one thing that concerns me is the effectiveness. And if you don't, I would say reach is not the same thing. I would say contact, if we get really reach, and reaching actually creates a relationship back and forth. We didn't get there.
Well, we had, just be clear, we had them online, we had them here, just didn't engage in the lesson. And I think, and I would say that went both ways, right? We weren't live enough engaging.
And that'll help, I support that idea. So the more engagement we have, maybe the more effective that'll be. I was looking for maybe, is there something else we can do to, when they don't engage? What other tools might we have? The grading will be part of that. I think that'll help.
I think outreach is huge.
I do too.
And I agree with you. You know, I think if you go remote, and then I start telling people to have to go house to house, I don't know how the reaction is going to be. I'm not against it. I think it's a good idea.
This is probably maybe too far, but I don't feel comfortable, I guess, too, with the the job we did do for some of our kids. Even though we tried, we just didn't reach all those kids that going remote a little bit longer, it's going to create that scenario possibly again. And I want to see how
It's a huge concern, right? Just so we're clear, you know. Good. Phone on the call.
Somebody else just called in, and I'm having a hard time hearing. I don't know who this is.
I don't think, it wasn't I didn't start the meeting. Someone else shut it down. Whoever created it can get in.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last bit of the job, so I could hear breathing.
John's concerned about making connections with kids in remote, which is it's a paramount issue of going remote, that we're not going to necessarily have the same ability we do when we're live, to see kids, to interact with kids, to build relationships. I think it's an incredible question.
Just something that both the Johns had mentioned to go off of that is why I think it's important to have staff have the option, but I'm also leaning towards them being in the building is to build in some sort of availability to see students individually. I have a big concern. I've heard tons of concerns about kids that need extra help, kids that have special needs, not getting them back from remote learning. So building in an option where we can safely have maybe an appointment, where to check in with the individual students here at the building. I think that would be extremely beneficial for a large portion of our student population. And it would kind of fit in with what Mr. Heather is talking about as far as not having teachers have to go out, go over, but just setting up, an appointment time or something where you can come in and get, a refresher or extra, tutoring, so to speak. I think that would help if we're going to go the route of remote learning to build in an option like that.
I think the same thing goes with social workers, kids with anxiety and depression. All of this is because of this going on. Maybe they need to do a face-to-face, and they should make an appointment, and social workers should be there.
Yeah. If you want to go remote, I can absolutely reach out to staff and see what we're willing to do. That, help us in each year. It's a huge concern of mine that we go remote, that personal connection that every kid needs, but kids that we haven't, we don't meet 10% of our kids when we're here. I wish we did, and we try really hard to, but, there's a percentage of our kids, we're going to have to work really, really hard remote not to lose. There's no question.
And we definitely have to do something about the kids with the IEPs. We owe it to them. We got to do something about that.
Does anybody have any other questions regarding the remote learning for Dr. Mullen? Remote learning proposals. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Dr. Mullen, regarding the decision we have to make?
Well, I can't imagine not having kids here on first day of school. It absolutely devastates me. Because the only way we reach kids is when we can be with them. I really believe that. However, I think the other factor that we have to look at holistically also come in. One, Pete and Martha here, and they're here last night about busing, which at the time, that's a little bit of our Achilles heel, and I've been open about that we go with 50, we went with 35. And there's a lot less, and I think it's a good move, but they're not 6 feet apart. Well, originally, that meant to me anybody that was within 6 feet of someone that's a positive would be quarantined for 14 days. And that's a risk. There are inherent risks with having live instruction. You can't get around. The health department now told me everyone on that bus has to be quarantined for 14 days no matter where they are. That includes our director. that driver also drives multiple routes. One positive case now, it's not inconceivable, means 9 to 100 kids have to be quarantined for 14 days with one case on the bus.
So it's the number, what would be the number on the bus with 6?
We can't do it. It's
I don't know, what would the number be?
7, 8 kids to apart. I mean, we don't have enough, we don't have enough buses. We don't have enough drivers, we can't do it. I mean, the state said 50, we did 35 because we thought we were trying, we were trying to do a better job of it, but we can't. But to lose 35 kids of drivers, we lose 6 or 7 drivers, we're going to be at a point where I don't think we can function. That's a huge concern. The other concern I have, contact tracing. We opened athletic camps. I don't think we had one positive spread of a case in our athletic camp. We still spent about 14 collective days shut down because we had, someone got access, someone was confirmed positive, so we shut it down so we had a positive test. I mean, we took all those steps. And the contact tracing for, a camp of 30 kids was a full-time job for 2 days for somebody. Now you start talking about multiplying that in a building of, this building of 1,000, middle school of 700, elementary of 400. We start doing that contact tracing. That's our nurse doing that while also taking the temperature of everyone in the building and checking symptoms for, 400 or 500 people at the same time. I think it probably is overwhelming. I think when you look at those factors, you really start to question, I like our plan still. I still think there's a lot built in. There's a lot of unknowns and it's a chance for sure. But I think when you start looking at some of those other factors, that, one bus shuts down 60 kids, 90 kids with one positive case for 14 days. If you lose, 2 or 3 bus drivers, now you worry about your fleet and the ability to get anybody to school in high school. I think when you look at contact tracing, then you say, okay, well, let's hire contact tracers. Okay, that's a point we could look at doing. That's what the state and county schools have been doing since March in the process. And again, everyone's working hard. That process, we did a quicker job of it than they did with one person doing it. So I don't know that it's conceivable we're going to be able to hire people that can do that job effectively at the numbers we need to do. I don't think at this point we can meet all the criteria to come back and do the job I thought we could do in July when I gave you the plan. And it hurts me to say that because I want our kids in our schools more than anything. This is where they belong. And this is where we can help them. And every question we had about remote learning, I have too. We're going to be much better at it. I have no doubt about that. Tilly's been working hard on it. And I know we're going to be a lot better at it for teachers. We've had 300 staff members in the last 3 weeks take classes in their own time, no money, to improve remote learning if we have to do that. So we're going to be better at it. I feel no doubt about that. But it's still not the same. And if anyone tells you it's the same, I would question that. But at the end of the day, the plan we presented, the situation we presented in, I felt good about. I don't feel the same way today. I don't feel that in the same way today. That plan is going to be as effective. I think some other factors that come into play are going to be effective. Sure.
I know there's been some variation in districts going, remote for the first quarter versus the first semester. If that was the way we went, what would be your recommendation? My concern is just the back and forth for kids if they can't settle into a routine.
Yeah, the 16th of October, I think, is right around that quarter mark. I think if you do that and we let people know by the 2nd September or 1st October meeting where we are, I get your concern. I also feel like, if we don't go live, the day we can get back, we have to. So I think going on for a semester gives up a little bit of hope that I would still want to have. And I know the numbers don't look good. I actually came down a little bit today, I think, went to the county. And I don't know what the future holds, but we need to be back here as soon as we can. As soon as viable, we need to be back here. So my preference would be to do the quarter, which I think is the 16th on October. We can check again. And then update people periodically if we can afford it.
Is it necessary to set an end date?
No. I think people might like it better, but no, absolutely not.
Just because, like you said, I don't think we need to set a hard deadline. I think it should be, if we roll with it, we roll with it until the day is okay, gotcha.
There are a couple of things that can go on while, if we were to choose the remote learning option, there are a couple of things that can go on while we're in that plan. And one of them, I would hope, would be some monitoring of the effectiveness of reaching kids, because one of our concerns is reaching kids. And if we're not reaching kids at an effective level, that to me is a change that needs to be taken into account in determining whether or not to continue with the plan that we're doing. But this thing has been changing and morphing from day to day and week to week in such a way that setting a deadline, I mean, things can change overnight either direction. And, you know, it may come to the point where if we choose a remote learning program that, you know, in 5 weeks, we may see a substantial difference in our view on where this is going. Or if, you know, the best case scenario happens and something is developed so that they can move into the next phase, you know, statewide, that may move some things around as well. I'm kind of, you know, I'd like to keep our options open. The other thing that can happen is while we're doing this, the development of contingency plans and so forth for in-person instruction can continue to go on, so that maybe some of the concerns that have been raised and voiced can be addressed in a more satisfactory manner than we've been able to do up until this point, not knowing exactly what we're facing, you know, until 3 weeks ago. So, you know, I'm kind of of the opinion that if we go with remote learning, it should be open-ended and not have a hard deadline. You know, maybe have a target within the district for what we're trying to, when we're trying to come back, but, you know, not look at that as being a solid, hard deadline that we have to meet one way or the other. That's kind of my thought on it.
Well, just for clarification for me, so if it were to be fluid, if you say, let's say we get wonderful news and something happens and the numbers are, the very next day, would you be like that flexible, or would you say week to week? I mean, I think we need to be a little more specific or clear about, you know, we'll keep it fluid, but at least I as a former teacher, you got to give me at least a week of transition, because I'm closing out lessons and doing whatever I need to do before I put it, but I don't want to do it very next day. That kind of,
Well,
that's
that would be kind of difficult to do because we would need a board, perhaps have to have a board vote and so forth that are to do that. So there would have to be some transition, but, you know, if we could shorten the term to a shorter term and do it in a week or, you know, 10 days or something like that, that would be a possibility. If we choose a remote, and we haven't done that yet, but that's the, you know, that's where I would be looking at less of a hard target date.
The other part to that, I would like to see if we're going to keep it flexible. If we go remote and want to keep it flexible, then I think we have to do a really good job of communicating regularly to the community, either on our district webpage or somewhere. So, you know, on a weekly basis, we have to, you know, this week, this is what we've gotten this week. And even if there's no news, we need to continue to make that effort so that staff and community are right on top of this. And I know we're working. Mike has put in more time than I mean, it's amazing what he's doing. But I think on the communication piece on it, especially if we're going to go flexible, has to be a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a little bit of a time frame might be.
The same thing can go for if we do the hybrid. We start off with that, and numbers show that you need to go to e-learning, then we can do the switch, pick a date.
Sure.
You know, you go that way too.
What was it that Sherry said?
Jerry said that the same with if we went to the hybrid first, we could look at data to see if it was, you know, if the numbers changed, we could go to remote learning if we had to.
Mike, what you were saying about the CARES Act earlier, if we try to go to the hybrid at this point, we have staffing issues. So,
I would anticipate we would, yeah.
I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit in terms of setting the date. My thought is that having it completely open-ended and not having a date that we wouldn't come back before, I think makes it difficult for planning, but also for people who are going to find themselves in very difficult employment situations. Not having something concrete that they can point to at least say that it's going to be at least this long. Having to say week to week to week to week, I think is more difficult. So I think that I would prefer something in terms of the target date, but at the same time, I understand what everybody else has said about not wanting to lock ourselves into something where if there is a massive sea change that we can't come back. But is there going to be a massive sea change that really changes the outlook between now and the end of the first quarter? I have trouble with it.
Generally, I think I agree with John on that. I would prefer to see it at the end of the quarter, and we see the trends going. Well, in 3 weeks, we're going to be switching back to whatever. That would be my preference. I'm not quite as comfortable with the fluidity of moving it back and forth. And it's a lot to do with family and parents and everybody's schedule. So I don't think 9 weeks is that far out there to set it a bit more personally. If we go, again, I'll say that if we go to the remote.
Okay, are there any other comments with respect to the options or any other questions?
I'd like to say, we're all sitting here and we're saying, everybody's got what ifs. I read all the different emails and, people send out, 200 scenarios. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody sitting here knows what's going to happen. All we can do is what we think is best for the kids. Kids come first, okay? I hear everything talking about what the staff feels. My thought is with the kids. That's why I ran for this position, okay? I want to keep the kids safe. I want to keep the kids' families safe, okay? So, I don't think by us sitting here and saying, well, we've got to set a date. I think that we should set a date that we, for sure we're not going to come back. But nobody knows when we're going to come back. And this, when this first started, we were going to be closed for 2 weeks. Well, we've all seen what's happened with that. Nobody has any idea. We're all sitting here thinking, boy, if there's a vaccine, we're all going to go right back and everything's going to be good. We just don't know. Everybody here is in a hard place. I feel terrible for you with your children. I really do. I don't know what you're going to do, and you're faced with some really, really hard choices here. And a lot of people are. I've heard people say, the schools aren't, we're not here to babysit. It's not babysitting, it's what people run their lives on. They depend on us for their children to be here, but we can't do that right now. So we're not doing this to be mean. We're doing it to protect the community. That's my biggest concern.
Any other comments or questions or anything else?
Do we want to make a statement about each one, or because I know we're all torn, and I keep looking at this. When we did that hybrid, I walked out here, I was so happy that day, like, boy, it's going to meet the needs of our kids. We're going to, the social emotional part, blah, blah, blah. As a teacher for 33 years, I know how important it is to see your kids the first day. And it was safe. Number one thing, it was safe. So I go home and I'm thinking, okay, we gave people options. If you don't think it's safe for your kids, you can do e-learning. It's a win-win. Bring your kid or keep them at home. So I went home and I said, I have 2 sons. Could I send them to Woodstock? Definitely. I have to plan about half the class sizes, walking down the halls on anything, staying any time, everything. And I said, as a teacher, would I feel safe? And I said yes. And if you would ask me to teach today, I would. Looking at what the parents' comments were, 70% of our parents want their kids in school in the hybrid. They feel comfortable with that. It seems like it's parents versus teachers. Teachers have great concerns. I get it. 60% of the teachers don't feel comfortable. If they have, if they're living with somebody who's compromised, or an elderly person, I get that. I wouldn't teach if I had that. So it's a double-edged sword. But my personal opinion is, I think that hybrid, other districts can do what they want. You know, people say, oh, you know, Stevenson's doing this, or, you know, Marengo's having hybrid. Okay? Well, I'm going to do what's best for our kids, our teachers. And I really, in my heart, I think it's safe. And maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But I think it's so important, and I know our kids are going to get behind if they start off at e-learning, that the kids who struggle academically, no, they're not. They're going to drop. That's all there is to it. And, you know, the kids with IEPs, I think Huntley, they do walk-ins, I think. I don't know, Mike, do they? For IEPs, kids that need help?
They don't currently do them. They did do it in the past.
Oh, I thought they were starting that. And I think at Dean Street, do we have walk-ins for speech? The speech people?
Currently?
Yeah.
No.
And if we do go to e-learning, which I like the hybrid, we have to meet the needs of those kids who are falling through the cracks. That is our responsibility. We got to be creative, and we got to figure it out. But we're going to lose a lot of kids if we start off at e-learning. And we can change the game, just like you said. The hybrid, after 2 months, the numbers, the data, boom, go to e-learning. You know, or, you know, I'm fine either way, but this is how I feel. When I walk out of here, I'm going to respect everybody who talked today, and it's just my opinion. But I think when we walked out that hybrid, I thought it was win-win. I really thought it was safe, and I could be totally wrong, but we don't know what's going to happen. You know, so I think it's important as an educator that kids start out with their teachers, and I think it's safe. If it wasn't safe, I wouldn't be speaking like this. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jerry a lot. I felt the same way walking out after the hybrid plan. There was lots of things I liked. Transportation was a concern, still would be a concern about it. But I think it's a major failure not to have some in-person contact with students. So if we're going to do remote, I can get on board with that, but I am very nervous for so many students falling behind, falling between the cracks, getting lost in the shuffle, not getting what they need. And we have a lot of students that could benefit from extra contact. So if we were to do remote, there would have to be a plan in place for those students. Whether it's appointments like we talked about earlier, you know, small groups. I think, you know, if the hybrid plan had a lot of safety, you know, ways to make things safe, I think we could do it with remote as well and add that component, whether it's, you know, how that looks is, you know, up to staff and administration to figure out, but I think we actually have to have something built in.
Would you just, for IEP kids only, what are you saying? I mean, because if you open it up, for, you know, I spoke on one side a minute ago, now I'm going to look at this angle. If you open it up and allow kids to come in that need to fall into the cracks, there has to be a criteria. You know, you can't just say any kid that is falling through the cracks come in, because you might have the floodgates open and we can't house that, we can't manage that. So we'd have to come up with some kind of plan as a district, not as tonight here, of course. But that's a real concern if we do that, because what type of kid are you going to say it's okay for you to come in or to have some kind of direct contact? I think that
we can bring, if you want to go, I can bring back a plan in 2 weeks that would detail what groups that we would, you know, approach, but you would have the opportunity to run that. Again, that'd be cooperation among numerous groups in our district.
I can't see how somebody would not, staff would not want to be involved or engaged like that.
in person?
Yes.
I mean, one-on-one electronically? You know, making themselves available for an office hour or something?
Yes.
The other part of that, and I'm sorry, I think the other part of this particular conversation, now we're getting granular in how we achieve the best education for the kids, other than the bigger attempt, just the conversation earlier, other than policy direction from the board. I think we need a motion tonight on how we're starting. I don't think we're holding off for 2 more weeks for any other kind of plan.
The status right now is that the district has, the administration has proposed a plan, and that that plan hasn't been voted on and not been objected to in any way. If we're going to change it, then we'll need to have a motion, and that's kind of where we stand right now. So we're going to need a motion if we're going to change it.
I'm prepared to make a motion. I don't know if anyone can.
Well, let's let everybody, if there's any other discussion or questions, let's get through that first.
Yeah.
Any other discussion or questions? All right, so just as I just reiterated, the status quo right now is without a motion. The administration proposal to go with the hybrid learning would be implemented after the beginning of the school year. If you have a motion to change that, let's go ahead and entertain a motion.
Well, first I'd say I don't think that that's necessarily the case, because I think what the agenda actually set for today is to approve that plan for the hybrid.
Yeah, we'd ask you to approve one of the 2 plans, either the hybrid or the remote.
In any case, the motion that I would make is move to approve the District 200 remote learning plan to begin the school year by e-learning only through an end date not earlier than October 16th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mr. Parisi, seconded by Mr. Headley. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parisi?
Yes.
Mr. Headley?
Yes.
Mr. Maselli?
No.
Dr. Ferris?
Yes.
Dr. Bidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Homo?
No.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes. Okay, motion carries by a vote of 5-2. That's all of our new business.
Well, I've got a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so, what do you want me, the IHSA authorizes athletics in the fall that goes over it, so it's cross country, girls tennis, boys and girls cross country, boys and girls golf, girls swimming. If they have if they don't care if you're remote or not.
So what's the question? Remote or not remote?
No, if you want to do it, you want to let kids participate in athletics, there's no remote. You want to do all, you only want to do the outside sports?
No, I think, if the IHSA says it's okay, my opinion is let them do it. As long as they keep to the 6 feet and the rules, and things are disinfected, it's their choice. That's how I feel.
Well, I coached, I couldn't imagine not having sports, when I consider that. But I don't think the IHSA is an expert on health.
No, they're not. They're following the guidelines.
Right. I just like to say, first, I don't know how we're going to get all the kids to practice. I mean, not every kid can have a parent drive them. Is that fair to the kids that can't make it?
Well, usually practice is at the school. You just walk to the field.
Right. Well, we're not going to have them in school.
Well, you got all day to get on your bicycle.
Yeah.
Those are at school. Let them decide.
I just think it's going to make that would make it tough on the kids. And to be honest with you, I really can't see, I think you're going to see these sports open up and close right now. As being a cross-country coach, I'm thinking everybody's like, well, the kids all run apart. Anybody ever been to a cross-country meet? The kids are falling on each other at the end. You gotta keep them, you gotta, spread them apart so you can keep them in line. I just can't see how any of these sports are gonna social distance, a lot of them are gonna social distance.
Well, we had camps, and I figure if the IHS says it's okay, let them decide. And we did run camps, and we did do protocol. You know, they washed down on the weight room and stuff, they work on it, they kept the mask on, they were 6 feet apart, so coaches have to get creative. You do three groups of 5 doing drills and then switch them. You gotta be creative. To take it away from kids, I don't know, I won't be interested about that. And then at the end of the day, the parents have a choice. Don't make your kids participate. But I don't think we want to take that away from kids, especially if they're going through learning and they need to get out, they need to do something. The psyche's I wouldn't take that away from kids.
Mike, you have a lot of you on that yourself? I would like to hear your-
Yeah, I'm really torn on this.
I know, that's what
I actually, Bruce and Jerry both made great points. I think, Bruce and I talked about previously, and I can't imagine keeping a kid away from that. Part of me wonders if we're not safe, we don't feel right coming back. I don't know, I feel awkward about it, but Jerry's point, I hate taking something else away from a kid. I feel horrible we're not starting school. Let's say we're given the opportunity to let you do something you love. If you want to do it, even if you don't have to, or we're going to take that away. I struggle with that tremendously. I don't have as much faith in the IHSA as Jerry has, as being an all-knowing organization.
They have complete guidelines.
Finally, yeah. I think, if it's matched in 6 feet, if they can hold it, and the ADs are out there constantly working with them, I'm not against it. The board wanted to allow it. I also,
Is this on the agenda?
Yeah, is this a
That
point of
was
order?
about to say.
I can get direction from the board at any point.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, then is there public comment? Because this was not an agenda item.
So I can get direction from the board at any point.
Okay, it's fine. But is there public comment?
I was going to say, the point where neither the discussion is on the agenda nor the vote on the agenda.
Doesn't have to be, I can get direction from the board at any point. It's open, it's not being voted, I'll get direction from the board.
I see Jerry and Dr. Ferris's point. But I don't see how we can say it's not safe to go to class, but it's safe to go participate in sports. And that's coming from somebody that's loves sports, loves athletes, athletics, loves extracurriculars. That's awkward for me. Because I was 100% on board with hybrid, getting to class, getting some normalcy. So I just don't see, as much as I hate taking something else away, I wanted school to be at least a hybrid. I don't see how we can say it's not okay to go to class, but the cross-country team can go practice together.
And IHSA was on board with our summer programs, and we terminated our summer program.
It's not an agenda item, and because I believe that the only way we can resolve this would be to take a vote, I believe we cannot vote on that at this point. We clearly have a disparity, a difference of opinion as to what should happen, and since it's not an agenda item and we cannot vote on it, we're going to pass this. We do have a meeting in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, at that point, we're going to have some kind of a plan on remote learning, and we're going to need to have some indication of the aspects of what we're dealing with. Among them, I would imagine, would include the proposed impacts on.
Well, I have to take action before that. So if the board wants me to just take action, react to it then at the meeting, that's your choice.
I don't think we have an option. I don't think we can vote on it.
And I'll take action and work and react to it. The board can always give me direction.
But we can't give you direction. We've got a disparity of opinion on this. The only way we can give you direction would be to have a vote, and we can't vote. This is not an agenda item. It's not put on for public discussion.
It can't be voted.
Right. All right. I mean, the board is always it always has the option to give you, input individually if the board wants to do that, and then you can take action that you feel is be appropriate. To be perfectly honest, so far, every effort that you've taken in this regard and putting these plans together, whether we agree with it, whether it's been agreed to or not, has been well thought out and well and thought about.
What action needs to be taken and what's the deadline?
I'm sorry?
What is the deadline and what action needs to be taken on the HSA issue on the school system?
Thursday.
Practice starts
August 10th.
Okay. That is our agenda for the evening.
If you want to take public comments, I've got more that came in later.
Pardon?
More public comments came in later.
How many more are we talking about? Are they commenting on the vote or are they commenting upon the...
Olmo, Clay, and Noonhour. They came in at 7:52, 7:55, and now we stopped our discussion. Well, prior to that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the public comment.
My name is Jimmy Amber. I'm a parent of a 10th grader in the dual language program at North at 7th grade Northwood. I'm also a step parent to a 6th grader at Creekside and a 2nd grader at Westwood. Additionally, I'm a former teacher. I know full well how important it is for kids to be in school. My 2 older children need the face-to-face instruction for their work. They need the support their Bible plans to give them. My daughter needs access to art classes. My son needs to be in science. Both my kids need their math. But as much as our kids need to be in school, as much as my kids want to be in school, now's not the time. The virus is not even close to being anywhere under control. There are too many moving parts in a school to be able to safely start to bring their children. I do not see any scenario I'd be safe enough to begin to think about starting them back in January, and that only if our society stops being selfish and self-centered and gets serious about that. Remote learning can work and work well. Woodstock is wonderful teachers, but remote learning flops in the spring because flipping a switch at a moment's notice and teachers weren't prepared. Typically when they need teaching, the teachers at Woodstock have been planning all summer for how to make remote learning work for the 2021 school year. Well, took the summer to prepare, did it anyway, what worked and what didn't, and a complete page of teachers honored. It was unsuccessfully, it was full remote learning, which is the best interest and safety of our children and staff. Those who count the supposed low numbers in children say the risk is low. The percentage is worth the risk. I want to point out a few things and ask some of the questions. First, children have been the most protected group over the last 5 months. So we don't truly know how children are affected. Second, there is a deadly secondary condition that is occurring in children who have recovered from the virus. Third, numbers of children are starting to decline since we're last. I want to ask the people who say that the percentage is worth the risk, are you prepared to bury your child if they detect the virus? Because of infected soon, because they're not prepared to bury their children, it's honored to bury their children. We need to be the full remote at a minimum the first quarter, not the first month. Can you please advise that the plan will be for Clay and special needs children there? From Amy, I'm sorry, I should have named that on there. Amy Broadhagen. And then Nikki Roberts. There was another subject where we consider going back. What is new hour supposed to be doing? So we all done it.
All right, that is our agenda this evening. At this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Parisi, seconded by Mr. Holman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Parisi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmove?
Yes.
Mr. Headley?
Yes.
Dr. Ferris?
Yes.
Dr. Bidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Maselli?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.